300 years ago, deep in the forests of Kent, Connecticut, you might have come across a young woman named Molly Fisher, a beloved local healer. Poor and without land of her own, Molly had no garden for her herbs, so she turned to the forest. The land became her apothecary. But while many admired her, some whispered stories. She vanished from town for days at a time, only to reappear as if from thin air. They said she could sometimes be seen standing on this very rock, performing strange rituals, shouting incantations into the night. From her rock, Molly stood high, observing all that was taking place down below in Kent. While Molly's behavior was unusual, she remained loved by her fellow townspeople. But Molly Fisher's acceptance by her community is an exception. Most women like her in colonial America did not enjoy the same fate. The residents of Kent were loath to use the word. Those in other communities used it more readily. Was Molly a witch? March 1662, nearly a century before Molly Fisher stood on her rock, illness swept through Hartford, Connecticut. Children were dying, fear was rising, and the word witch was spoken without hesitation. In the pouring March rain, Goody Ayres, a seemingly ordinary housewife, stood before a patriarchal council accused of consorting with the devil. Her young neighbor, Elizabeth Kelly, had fallen ill. In her final delirious moments, she cried out, "Goody Ayres chokes me." Grief turned to blame, and Elizabeth's parents insisted Ayres was responsible. As the sickness spread, so did the panic. More women were accused, 4 were hanged. Goody Ayres escaped execution, but not suspicion. Banished from the community, she fled Hartford, abandoning her 8-year-old son. This wave of fear and persecution became known as the Hartford Witch Panic. This event, and others like it, reinforced the idea that witches were thought to cause the mysterious diseases that were common in early America. Accusations were especially common when children started to die. As activist and author Beth Caruso shares,
the thing that scares people the most in these types of situations is the thought that someone is trying to do harm to children.
20 years before the Hartford Witch Panic, an illness swept through Windsor, Connecticut. The outbreak of fatal illness in Windsor led directly to the execution of Alice Young, who was accused of killing 3 neighborhood children in 1647. She was the first person in colonial America to be put to death as a witch.
I looked at the death records for the same year that Alice Young died, and the people that died, they were mostly children, some elderly too, and that's who the flu kills for the most part.
Illness and fear played a role in the witch hysteria, but gender was the much larger force at work. Though men were accused, most allegations targeted women, which author and historian Peter Vermillier explains.
It's important to know when thinking about witchcraft in Litchfield County that the idea of witchcraft was very much born out of ideas of gender norms at the time. The stories that we encounter are not stories of women on brooms flying through the air, or black cats, or pots and spells and stuff like that, but rather what we see are women who are acting outside of the prescribed gender norms of the time. Women who never married, women who never had kids, women who were herbal healers, things like that. They were at high risk of being considered witches by their neighbors.
From the beginning, Societal expectations shaped who was seen as suspicious. Women were expected to bear many children. The average in colonial New England was 8 or 9, but Alice Young and Goody Ayres had only one child, and Molly Fisher had none. Even the names tell a story. Molly and Moll, names given to both Fisher and Moll Kramer, an accused witch from Woodbury, were often used to shame women associated with prostitution. Healers, too, were suspect. Women who used herbs to treat illness were often seen as practicing black magic. It's important to understand the misogynistic undertones of these witch trials. While religion and lack of scientific knowledge played a role, these trials were largely devices used to punish and control women, especially those who lived outside social norms. Women accused of witchcraft were famously punished with death, but they also experienced injustice beyond the gallows. They were harassed, both verbally and physically, by their towns. Not only were they berated by the community, but they were also violated as a means to gather evidence.
They would also look for witches' teats, or marks of the devil on the woman's body. She would be taken with the wives of the elders in the community, stripped down, and they would look for witches' teats or witches' marks. So something like a skin tag, a mole, anything like that could also be used against somebody.
Today, groups like the Connecticut Witch Trial Exoneration Project are working to clear the names of those accused of witchcraft. While witchcraft was erased from the list of capital offenses in Connecticut in 1750, these efforts are relevant and necessary.
Then, when you had the case of our recent election, you had our female candidate being accused of witchcraft by these far-right religious groups. She was literally being called a witch. It was said that she was doing witchcraft to look good.
The goal is not only to restore the reputations of these women, but to confront the deeper forces, misogyny, fear, and ignorance that fueled the accusations. So far, the project has exonerated 12 women. Whether their so-called crime was devil worship or simply living as women in a patriarchal society is a question for history to decide. Alice Young, Goodwife Ayres, and dozens of other women faced brutal consequences. Most did not have the privilege of simply being the subject of gossip. Rather, claims of witchcraft snowballed and they ended in exile, imprisonment, or execution. Molly Fisher was the exception. As an 18th century woman who lived outside societal norms, she was able to do so without formal accusation, a rare freedom for women of her time. Present-day efforts to exonerate the accused do more than restore the names of those in the past. They free women today to strive to live the life they choose.